The soul is dyed the color of its thoughts. Think only on those things that are lined with your principles and can bear the light of day. The content of your character is your choice. Day by day, what you choose, what you think, and what you do is who you become. Heraclitus. Laurel K. Hamilton wrote that there are wounds that never show on the body, that are deeper and more hurtful than anything that bleeds. Those words echoed in my mind as I sat down to write this sermon, for such wounds can engulf the soul in darkness. As I often speak of paths one takes in life, it seems most natural to discuss the path through darkness that we have all encountered in our lives. As I cannot speak of another story, I shall share my own. Although everyone's darkness looks different, I have found that each path has similarities. Each pain is lessened when it is shared, so perhaps today will help others. That is my deepest hope. So let's traverse the story together. Be warned that the tale is riddled in geek speech and sewn together with quotes throughout time. And know that it is undoubtedly in traveling the path where we will gain knowledge and strength. For me, when I am traveling on such a path bathed in darkness, a dragon inevitably appears, roaring, shaking the world in which my feet so shortly before seemed firmly planted on the ground. As the beast is breathing fire, smoke plumes about me, obstructing my vision, searing my eyes and indeed my heart as well. The army of brethren, the army of souls filled with light and love who are all around, begin to become impossible to see or feel. My senses become sluggish as the beast instills fear, pain, and a heartache. It runs me into a cave with an even deeper penetrating darkness. And so the desire to curl up under the covers and block out the world seems so overwhelming that it becomes the only clearly visible choice laid out before me. Anxiety becomes the little flying monster that dive bombs me out of nowhere. Ensuing panic offers overwhelming needs to retreat even more deeply within that cave. The world loses a vividness of striking colors. It becomes dreary, and basic necessities become a struggle. I complete them, but it is as if each task is a skirmish with a goblin in my path on any given day. Bathing, cooking, eating, and working becomes little crusades in my campaign against the beast that is the darkness. These specifics are mentioned here today because, as Mary Ann Radmacher wrote, courage does not always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the ending of the day, saying, I will try again tomorrow. In the midst of such times, I do not want to see anyone. The curtains remain drawn as waves of pain and anguish wash over me. My brain lies to me, uttering that all is hopeless, warning me of yet another goblin attack waiting to pounce, increasing my anxiety. Margaret Atwood put such a description of the lies that one's brain tells best when she wrote, whatever is happening to me is my own fault. I have done something wrong, something so huge I can't even see it, something that's drowning me. I am inadequate and stupid, without worth. When my friend died last year, when our friend died, I saw flickers of the darkness. The path appeared here and there for about a week, but I persisted on a path bathed in light, believing that continuing my life on a path from a place of love would honor his memory. Then my niece died, and the darkness grew. In but a moment's breath, I was encased in it, and the light seemed to have disappeared. It felt almost as if the light was a dream, a billion miles away. Yet I walked on. Much as one of my favorite Winston Churchill quotes goes, if you're going through hell, just keep going. I bathed. I slept. I cooked for myself, and I made sure I continued to eat. But I did so swimming in the darkness, gulping for air and repeatedly locked in a struggle to reach the surface of that deep, dark abyss. In each attempt to reach the surface, I reached out to those that I loved. However, even though people were surrounding me with love and light, I felt utterly alone, boxed into a path where the cavernous murk seemed endless. During this time, a horrible time, one of my dear Mosaic friends, Helen, reminded me that although the pain seemed so piercing and unending, there was hope. And the hope could help me through, as well as sharing the brilliant thought that my strength, wisdom, courage, and spiritual path would inevitably grow from such a harrowing experience. At that pivotal moment, my friend dipped right into the Unitarian Universalist sources, touching on the direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder, affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Or rather, she reintroduced me to such a wonder. For not all things that aid in our growth are filled with sparkly butterflies and rainbows. With pain comes experience, and with experience can come spiritual growth. That day, Helen offered a spark of light. Helen Keller said that character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Our Helen said much the same. That this whole harrowing experience I was enduring was absolutely awful. But when I made my way through it, the emotional and spiritual growth I would experience could be profound. And so I traversed on, crossing through the darkness with little sparks of light each time a friend, someone in my family, or brethren here at Mosaic reached out and shared gems such as the message Helen shared that day. I sought out counseling to make it through, and even though the counseling ended sooner than I would like, it helped. For the beast had been named, shedding a bit of light on the darkness. Over time, I began to find that when I focused on flickers or sparks of light, I saw glimmers of hope. Not all who suffer from depression are blessed in this way. And it is vital to note that according to the Hope for Depression Research Foundation, 1 in 10 adults suffer through this trek in darkness. In fact, the beast is the leading cause of disability for ages 15 through 44. And so many are traversing the darkness. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote that when you're lost in the woods, it sometimes takes you a while to realize that you are lost. For the longest time, you can convince yourself that you've wandered off the path, that you'll find your way back to the trailhead any moment now. Then night falls again and again. And you still have no idea where you are. And it's time to admit that you have bewildered yourself so far off the path that you don't even know from which direction the sun rises anymore. This is possibly the very best description I have ever read concerning depression. When I descend into that darkness, I do not always realize immediately that it is happening. The painful experiences surrounding the death of loved ones seems an obvious reason to descend, or for the descent to occur. Yet I did not see it at first. I thought, this is normal. These feelings are normal. And although they are, I still did not fully realize that I was sinking. I remember describing the drop as if I was on a torrential ocean with undertow catching me, whereupon I could find my way to the surface and even find my way to little islands for a time. I was plunged back into the depths again and again. But my dear friend Helen's words appeared in my head over and over again as well. And though my heart sank repeatedly, it is as much as the African proverb goes, smooth seas do not make skillful sailors. The waves were torrential, but they were also sculpting me, and each time I was pulled into that undertow, the undertow that is depression, that grabbed me so very tightly. My ascent to the surface for short times were attempts to find the light when darkness had closed in around me. The sea is the beast. The darkness is the beast. The goblins, they are the beast. And the dragon is the beast. All of these beasts are depression, an insidious foe that can mimic the devourer of souls on this path seeped in darkness. But take heart, for where there is darkness, there is light, for one cannot by definition exist without the other. Or as Sharon Salzberg wrote, even in the midst of devastation, something within us always points the way to freedom. For me, in this particular battle, Helen's words offered solace, empathy, and a deep understanding of my pain. The light flickered that day during that conversation. And just as I did not realize that I was descending into the darkness while it was happening, I was entirely unaware that the light was about to shine all around me again. And it started with that flicker, that conversation. Please do not get me wrong. Each and every conversation with loved ones helped beyond what I can even begin to describe. And I am and shall ever be eternally grateful for the support I received when birthed from love from so many around me, many of which are here today. You know who you are, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Molly McCord wrote that when the feeling of sadness, anger, and depression appears, allow them to flow and allow yourself to express the emotion with the intention of not doing harm to others. This is one of the things that Helen encouraged. It is also one of the things that Tracy, Jan, and Judy suggested, listening without judgment and offering love and support. So when I point out Helen's support, it is not intended to minimize anyone else's support. And I did what each of these amazing friends suggested. I felt it all. I wept. I yelled into the darkness, figuratively speaking. I felt every single painful emotion and continue to do so because grieving is an ongoing process in which I have discovered that you never stop feeling the pain. It just gets easier to bear the weight of it as time goes by. Last year, the pain was crushing. It weighed so heavily. It was no picnic this year, but this year is a bit easier than last year. I have also learned that I am stronger than I realize, that although such pain has been and is still being endured, much like Pandora's box, hope still resides within. And so I began again to nurture that hope, as I did each and every conversation with my friends and family, and found the flickers of hope, the flickers of light here and there. Candles lighting around me, dispelling some of the darkness, guiding my way back to a path nourished in love. I slowly began to look back through those rose-colored glasses I've always seemed to don in this life, peering closely at my life and the love surrounding me, and found myself seeped in gratitude for all the love, support, and acceptance that was in my life each and every day. I still feel some pain, but gratitude brought hope. And hope brought me back to the very center of my reason for being in all parts of my life. Gratitude brought me back to love. And as you all know, I believe that love should be spread around all messy like. I know that my story will differ from so many stories of the beautiful souls here with us this morning. But I cannot help but believe a quote by one of my favorite actresses in the world, Goldie Hawn. The lotus is the most beautiful flower, whose petals open one by one, but it will only grow in the mud. In order to grow and gain wisdom, first you must have the mud, the obstacles of life and its suffering. The mud speaks of the common ground that humans share. No matter our stations in life, we are all faced with the same obstacles: sadness, loss, illness, dying, and death. If we are to strive as human beings to gain more wisdom, more kindness, and more compassion, we must have the intention to grow as a lotus and open each petal one by one. The title of this message I share speaks volumes. I hope against hope that all here with us this morning walk away with a few pieces of wisdom. In life, there are times where we all traverse the darkness. For some, this is a lifelong battle, but we are warriors. And wherever there is darkness, it is important to remember that lighting just one candle can dispel even such a voracious enemy as that terrifying, fire-breathing dragon. It is important to remember that we carry light within us, and that each act of kindness offered to both one another and the souls in our wider world makes a huge difference. For we all battle dragons, and all the difference in the world can be made by the noble troops with boots on the ground, bathed in light, yet sometimes hidden by swirls of smoke left in the wake of the beast with breath of fire. Moreover, the gratitude that leads to positive thinking in my life is not a refusal to see the negative, but rather a refusal to focus on it. For my perception paints the world. And even if that world is engulfed in the raging blaze of a dragon's breath, I insist upon remembering Christopher Reeve's words. For every geek knows that Superman's utterances must be closely listened to above all. He said, once you choose hope, anything is possible. May your day be filled with wonder and steeped in love, my amazing Mosaic brothers and sisters. Amen and blessed be.